Now, I don't know how you met God, but I met God in a very, very unusual way. I grew up out in the country where we had country churches and country roads, and my parents attending the Galilee Baptist Church back in Alexandria, Louisiana. And so my brother and I were outside playing one Sunday afternoon, and Mama came outside. She said, "Y'all children, come on in here. We going to the Lord's Supper." Now, I didn't know who the Lord was, but I sure knew what supper meant. Supper meant fried chicken and cornbread and greens and collard greens and pound cake. My mother made the best pound cake in town. Well, I wanted to go to that supper. Well, see, back in my days, I was 4 years old at the time. Communion was a lot different back in our community. So you had to wear all white, and it was always served at night. Now, the Galilee Baptist Church was an old-time country church. And they had no air conditioning. They had them old wooden benches. And they had no lights. They had kerosene lamps. That's what they had. And they had an old oak tree out in the front. And Brother Elmo Williams used to go out there and ring that bell so when everybody knew it was time to go to church. Well, Mama got me all dressed up in my pretty little white dress, and my brother had on his little white pants and his little white shirt. And the boys all had to wear, men had to wear little white armbands, and all the ladies had to wear little things on your head. I didn't know what all that meant. She just said supper, and I wanted to go eat. Well, we went walking down that dirt road, and we got down there to the Galilee Baptist Church. At the door, I got met by a mean, ugly usher. Man, she looked like she was going to spank somebody. She took one look at me and she said, "I know you going to talk. So you sit your little tail down on that front pew and don't you move, you hear?" "Yeah, ma'am." I was scared of her already. Well, when I walked inside the door, they had this table sitting in front, and it had a white sheet over it. It had these big bumps under there, and I tried to figure out what could be under that sheet. Man, I thought it must have a ham under there, a whole turkey or something. I tried to imagine. I started licking on my lips, and I said, "Boy, we're going to eat good up in here tonight." Well, when you're 4 years old, you really don't understand order of worship. I mean, I just went there to eat. It was the Lord's Supper, and I wanted to eat. Well, I sat on the front pew, and I kept watching. I was wondering, when we was going to eat? When we going to eat? Well, the people came in, and they sang a while, and the preacher came in, and he yelled a while, and the usher came by, and she had a little paper plate, and I gave her a penny. I thought that's what you had to pay for the supper. Well, I didn't know. Well, I kept wondering, where we going to eat? Well, finally, these 4 ladies came over there, and they had on these white dresses, and they had these things on their head, and they were swaying back and forth in front of that table. I thought, oh, they must be shooing away flies or something. Well, they finally took that sheet off. I looked over there, and I said, "What kind of supper is that? All they got under there is crackers and juice, and the crackers is all in pieces, and the juice is in little bitty glasses." Man, we collected jelly jars out the oatmeal box at home. I had some nice pretty jelly jars at home, and some nice glasses out the oatmeal box. I said, we could have had more food than this. Man, I'm just a fussing as a little 4-year-old. Then I saw my mom in the choir stand. She gave me that mama look, and I thought, girl, you better shut up or your mom gonna come out that choir stand and slap you silly right here in this church. But I kept my mouth, I was licking my little lips. I got my little handkerchief out my pocket, and I spread it on my lap. And I was waiting. Well, they prayed over that food, and they gave it to the grown people. They didn't give us little kids any. Now, I'm totally confused. Why would my mama get me all dressed up to go to a communion supper, and then they don't give you none? Well, that didn't make sense to me. So all the grown folks went outside and did what grown folks did, and all the kids stayed inside and did what I said. And I told all them little children on my row, I said, let's get up. We're going down to the front of that church house. We're going to get us some of that stuff. So we went down front. We raised up that sheet, and underneath that table was a jug of what I thought was leftover juice. So I said, here it is. My brother said, show it is. My brother said, you drink it. I said, no, you the boy, you drink it. I always let my brother go first. So he picks up this jug, and of course we helped him. He puts it up to his mouth, and he goes glue, glue, and then he fell. Bam! I said, James. He ain't moved. James. He did not move. I went yelling for my mama. Mama! Mama! Mama, come quick! Mama came running there. She said, what's the matter? I said, James is dead. He dead. Well, my mother looked over there, and she saw my brother. He looked bad. The boy had turned green. Now, when a black person turned green, you know they sick. They have to be sick. Mother looked at that boy, and then she looked at that jug and realized that my brother had drank kerosene. That's where they kept it. They never thought nobody would go under the communion table and look for the kerosene. In case you try to figure out who invented ADD, I did. I started it. Well, back in those days, there was no such thing as 911 or calling an ambulance or nothing like that. We didn't have nothing like that in those days. But what we did have in our church was the mother of the church. And the mother of the church was Sister Morris, and she just knew everything. Old people were smart back when I was a child, and we respected their being smart too. So they went across the field and they got Sister Morris, and she came over there and she said, "Oh, I can fix that." She went home and got something called clabbered milk. Now, for all you people outside of Mississippi, I'll have to explain to y'all what clabbered milk is. People in Mississippi, they still drink clabbered milk. Nasty stuff. Somewhere it's a cross between cottage cheese and buttermilk. Just real nasty stuff. Well, she went and got some clabbered milk. She pulled that down my brother's throat, and he upchucked all that kerosene. Well, we had to go home and face my daddy. I'd rather we had died and faced Jesus. At least he offered forgiveness. My daddy was mad. He was really mad. I stood in the corner with my hand in my mouth, put my little head down. I wasn't going to say nothing. My daddy said, "Come here." I ain't moved. My daddy said, "Come over here now." Yeah, sir. I just knew my daddy was going to slap me to kingdom come. My daddy said, "Come here." Yeah, sir. And he pointed that finger in my face. Now I was scared of that because I knew back in my day, if you point your finger in front of somebody's face, that was already bad. And then if you shook it, that's how many years are going to be off your life. Now, my daddy never shook his hand, but he sure pointed it in my face. Now, you know I was terrified. My daddy said, "Don't you know better to play in church?" "Yeah, sir." "Don't you know better to play with something in yarn?" Yeah, sir. And then I knew my daddy was going to tear me up. Instead, my daddy looked at me like his face was Jesus. And he said, "God's going to get you." Man, I didn't know who God was. I didn't care to know who God was. But I'm telling you, that was a fear than any Billy Graham sermon. I'm telling you, it scared me silly. And I just pictured God as this mean man that went around taking little bad girls like me and picking them up with a pitchfork and throwing them somewhere. I was literally terrified of God. And whenever I went to church, my daddy would give me that look and point his finger. Man, that's how they got saved in the old days, man. They had no 4 spiritual laws and no Roman road and no patting you on the head and leading you in no prayer forget. They scared hell right out of you back when I was a child. And I'm telling you, when my daddy said God's going to get you, I believed it. But you know what I found out as I grew older? That's the whole purpose of salvation in the beginning. God came to get us. Not because we did something bad, but because he had something he wanted me to do. He did get me. Sure did. And you know what I hope? I hope God gets you too.